Hey everybody, today I'm in Carmel, Indiana, and more specifically, I'm in West Carmel, Indiana. So we're gonna talk in this video just a little bit about what you might expect when you're in West Carmel, what it might look like a little bit more compared to East Carmel, or even maybe some of the other cities and towns that surround Carmel, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, I'm Jason Compton with the Compton Home Group. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Carmel, Indiana, or specifically West Carmel, Indiana, of course Indianapolis, Indiana, or any of the cities and towns surrounding Indianapolis, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also tap the little bell so you're notified every time we do a new video. And we have people reaching out to us from all over the country with questions about Carmel, Indiana, or nearby Westfield, Indiana, just to the north of here where I'm standing. Of course, Indianapolis, just to the south of where I'm standing right now, a little further though, into the south. So people have questions about all the cities and towns surrounding Indianapolis. So if you have questions at all about Indianapolis, Carmel, any of those cities and towns at all, and it doesn't matter what that question is, then make sure you reach out any way that you know how. We'll always have your back with those questions, and we'll certainly have your back when it comes time for you to make your move to Carmel, Indiana, or anywhere in the Indy Metro. All right guys, again today I'm in West Carmel, Indiana, and if you were to look at addresses, you're not gonna find a West Carmel address. It's just gonna be Carmel, Indiana. And it's the same with the east side of Carmel. It's not gonna say East Carmel, Indiana, it's just gonna say Carmel, Indiana. Whenever I refer to East Carmel or West Carmel, it's not even an official designation, if I can actually say that, spit that out. Nobody has exact borders for East Carmel and West Carmel. And if you talk to anybody else, their definition of it might be a little different than mine, but I pretty much define anything west of US 31 as West Carmel. And when you get east of that, it may not necessarily be East Carmel to me. You kind of have the downtown area, you've got this little section between US 31 and Keystone. That's certainly very, very central Carmel, but you have to get east of Keystone before you start to get into East Carmel as far as I'm concerned and defined by me. But if you get east of US 31, of course you're east of where I'm standing here. But West Carmel, I think if you visit the city and you start to drive around, if you are on the east side, if you're on the west side and you're going through the center, you're going to notice some differences. You're gonna notice a different feel. And so today I am in West Carmel and fairly west. So if I go just north of here, I can get to 146th Street. Not all that far north, maybe a mile from where I'm standing, a little less, really, truly. And north of 146th Street, you get into Westfield. But more importantly, I'm west of Ditch Road. Now, Ditch Road runs north and south, so it runs parallel to US 31, and it's well west of US 31. And in a really nice neighborhood here, I'm going down a walking path where you could ride your bike or walk, and I'm just gonna start walking this way, because that's what people do on walking paths, I guess. And you'll hear some machines here and there. There's a lawn crew up here mowing. This whole area where I'm standing right now, this would be taken care of by the HOA, and so it's a common area, and they're taking care of all of that. But you'll see fences around through here. This is actually something that comes up from time to time when people who aren't from this area, they're from other places in the country like California, where you're very, very used to having fences, and not really even a fence, but a wall between your house and the yard and your neighbors. Here, they look around a lot of the backyards, and you'll see this in East Carmel, you'll see this in West Carmel too, but other cities as well, like Westfield, Fishers, Brownsburg, and you get into neighborhoods, and it's almost like the houses that back up to one another, they don't hear because we've got this retention pond, so these houses back up right to it. But if you were to go off of this and you have a house and a backyard that backs up to another backyard, it's like they're these super yards, and nobody has any fences. And that's true in some cases, but not true in others, and this is definitely a really good example. Most of these houses have fences. Now they're restricted by the HOA as far as the material, so we've got wrought iron fences here behind me, so it doesn't disrupt the view from the house of the pond. But on the other side, we've got wooden fences, so it might just be that you can't have chain link fences, or maybe a different type of fence that would completely block the view, although these can, but like a vinyl fence or something. I just don't think anybody's put a vinyl fence up in here, but this is wooden. It would block your view, but it's restricted on the height as well. So it's roughly 4 feet high, maybe just slightly shorter than that. So you wouldn't be able to, just by judging all the way through here, have a privacy fence. So you couldn't have that wall that's 6 feet tall or even 8 feet tall. You couldn't have it made of wood. stone or anything like that. Definitely gonna be restricted on that. But as you get outside and away from the retention pond here, then you might be able to find neighborhoods that can have a privacy fence. So fences can definitely happen, and you're gonna see through West Carmel, which feels extremely residential. So that's one of the big differences between West Carmel and East Carmel, is the fact that you drive through West Carmel, and I mean, it is very nice. It is beautiful, but it's neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood. So it feels extremely residential. As we're driving around, a lot of times taking a look at homes, we'll take non-major roads or even some of the major roads, like 131st Street, which is Main Street going through Carmel. But outside of the center of Carmel, where the downtown area is, it's called 131st Street or 126th Street. Those roads go through some very residential areas, and you might get to the point where you've driven around for 5 or 6 houses seeing those, and you never see a store or a shop of any kind. And if it's not that you aren't close to those things, because you actually are. From where I'm standing right here, I'm easily within 10 minutes of a grocery store or a nearby shopping center that has a lot of the things that you're ever gonna need on a daily basis. You're not far from it, but it has that feel like you are. So that's one of the big differences with West Carmel. The other difference, or I'd say a significant one that most people would be concerned about with West Carmel, is that when you compare West Carmel to East Carmel, West Carmel is more expensive. So in East Carmel, it's not like it's really easy to get in there under $400,000 or even $500,000. You're not gonna be just tripping over choices on getting in there. But over here in West Carmel, it's certainly more difficult to get in under $400,000 and a little bit more difficult to get in under $500,000. A little easier on the east side of Carmel to do so, a little harder over here. And generally speaking, the reason for that is that you've got a lot of larger homes on the west side of Carmel. Really, there are more homes on the west side of Carmel, and they're all just really quite large. If you're looking for a really small house, like a 1,400 square foot house, 3-bedroom, you're not gonna have a tremendous number of choices in West Carmel. You can find them here and there, and you could certainly find a townhome or a condo, but there aren't a tremendous number of those either. So the size of the homes in West Carmel tend to be a little bit bigger, square footage average a little bigger, so the price goes up too. Plus, in West Carmel, you have some tremendously expensive, multi-million-dollar homes found over here, and more often over here than you do on the east side of Carmel. The east side of Carmel is more vintage, it's older. So a lot of older homes built in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, they tend to be a little bit smaller. So over here, this neighborhood is not the oldest neighborhood in West Carmel, but it's certainly not something I would consider old. Most of these houses in here were built around 2000, somewhere in there, so pretty close to the turn of the most recent century. So we're talking a little over 20 years old, which that's not ancient, it's not brand new either. So of course, if you were to go into a lot of these houses, most of them have a newer roof. Probably every roof out here is 15 years or younger, very likely. And then the other parts of the house, you can kind of see on the sides of these over here, the condensing unit, HVAC system. After 20 years, it's probably pretty hard to find an original unit in a lot of these houses. So it's probably been upgraded and changed out at some point in time. So everything, including all of the areas around these neighborhoods. So the streets, the shops, when you get to them, because they are nearby, and the overall feel of West Carmel is just newer and less mature than what you have on the east side of Carmel. So that goes with the trees too. Now, a lot of these trees in this neighborhood here, they're of course probably in that 20-year-old range. So they do have some maturity on them, but they still aren't as big as the trees that you see across this particular pond, which were probably there whenever all of this entire neighborhood wasn't here. So those trees might be 50 years old, 60 years old, maybe even older with a couple of the larger ones. That's gonna be a lot more common when you get over into the eastern side of Carmel, where some of those neighborhoods that are built in a lot of the homes in the 60s and 70s, well, the trees were there before the home was built in a lot of cases, and the neighborhood was built around some of these trees, or they were just there and didn't have to take them down, or they were planted right about that time. So if you have a house that was built in 1970, and here we are past 2022, we're actually in 2022 when this is being shot, this video, but you could be watching this 2 years later, something like that. So that's a relatively old tree now. So if it was built in 70 and it's more than 50 years old, or right at 50 years old. So that's some pretty good growth, and you see that commonly through East Carmel, so a lot more maturity. So it depends on what you like. You know, of course, that's all completely subjective. Do you like that? But of course, if you have a home that's older and you have trees that are older, that is cool that you have that maturity. It's really nice if you enjoy that in larger trees, but if you don't like maintenance or getting into a home that is gonna require some renovation, maybe whole kitchen remodel or something like that, then it may not necessarily be a place where you're gonna find your perfect fit. So everybody has their own preferences. It's just that when you drive through West Carmel, it's going to seem newer, it's going to seem a little less mature, and if you spend enough time here, you're gonna see that it's a little more expensive, and certainly that it's different looking than what you find over in East Carmel. So if you have questions at all about this particular neighborhood or any other neighborhood in West Carmel, or Carmel for that matter in general, then reach out any way that you know how. And until the next one, we'll see you later.